Our good buddy there, Eddie Coleman, who we have a conversation with. Eddie, obviously, we love you. Great to have you with us here. Mets have been pretty patient. They're not going to run into any of these big signings. They bought McCann. Realmuto probably wanted too much money. And they've sort of laid low a little bit with Springer. So Mr. Cohen has said, I'm not going to spend like drunken sailors, and so far he's lived up to it. Let me get your thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, listen, Chris, he made a lot of money in his other businesses being patient and striking at the right time, and I think that's exactly what he's trying to do here. I think they will have George Springer. I still think he's priority number one, but I do think that Springer's camp probably has to come back to him a little bit. You have to consider as well, there hasn't been much movement anywhere. The Mets have James McCann. They have Trevor May that they've signed, but there hasn't been a heck of a lot of movement outside of trades elsewhere. So he's not one to jump the gun at this point in time. People are kind of waiting for him to see exactly what the market is going to be, and he doesn't want to be the person to set the market. So I do think they'll have Springer. They have some pitching help that they have to get after as well, but I do think Springer will be here eventually.
I think you're probably right, but let's say Springer goes to Toronto. Would the Mets, and I think Lindor would sign long term, would the Mets look into the Lindor scenario with the Indians? I know they got a shortstop who they kind of like, and you'd have to probably give up a couple good young players, but Lindor in New York would be a good buy. What's your take on that?
I don't see it personally, but it's a possibility. Yeah, is it a possibility if other things fall through? Yeah, I think you'd have to certainly consider it. One thing that Jared Porter, the new GM, said he wants to be strong up the middle. That would qualify as up the middle, but that's why I think Springer is their ultimate target. But would Lindor come? Yeah, that's possible. They may have to look elsewhere if it's not Springer. There are Jackie Bradley Jr., Kevin Pillar, Kevin Kiermaier I'd have to trade for, but there are other guys out there. But I think, like I said, I think Springer is priority number one. Would they go for Lindor? I think, yeah, it's a possibility, but I wouldn't say it's a probability.
All right, let's do Porter, the new GM from Arizona. A, how much power do you think he's going to end up having? Did he make a good first impression? B, with his first Zoom press conference? Let me hear.
Yeah, he did. I was very impressed with what he had to say. And listen, people speak highly of him around the business. He's a guy that he likes to listen. And that's one thing that I like to hear. A lot of guys like to talk these days. And, guys who like to listen, I think maybe ahead of the game just a little bit. So I like what I heard from Jared Porter opening day. And he kind of set things in order as to how he wants to approach things. And, yeah, I do think he's going to have a lot to say. I think Sandy Alderson obviously would have the ultimate say, but at the same time, he's being groomed, to take over Sandy's spot in a couple of years. So he's going to have a lot to say.
Has the owner got involved a little too much with Twitter chatter with Met fans?
He's enjoying himself, I'll say that. That's for sure. I think he's come across very positively, actually. When you're not doing anything at the time and you haven't signed anybody per se outside of James McCann, and they're waiting for either Springer or Bauer or somebody else, you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble. But I think he's having fun with it, and I think he's shot back with a few good ones across the bow as well. So I think that maybe he'll quiet down over time, but right now he's having a lot of fun.
All right, last thing, Eddie, the scenario if there is no DH. That's going to hurt the Mets a lot because they got some DH possibilities, Alonso and Dom Smith. And I get the idea that there won't be one here in 2021. And if there isn't, how does that affect the Mets' plans in the next few weeks?
It affects them adversely. Listen, it's mind-boggling to me that this hasn't been decided upon yet, Chris. I think the DH is inevitable in both leagues. There was a DH last year. I don't think, I'm with you, I don't think there is going to be one this year, but I do think there will be next year after the collective bargaining agreement, so I don't see why they just don't put it through. But at the same time, I think that they're probably going to abstain from it, and that hurts the Mets. There's no question. Dom Smith is a guy that you want in your lineup every day. He's going to have to play left field if there is no DH, because Alonso is going to be your first baseman, and you really can't put Alonso any other spot. If you have a DH, you can DH Alonso. You can put Dom Smith at first, which makes you a better defensive team, but it adversely affects them. They also have J.D. Davis in the mix as well, so there's no question it hurts the Mets. It helped them an awful lot last year. It'll hurt them this year if it's not there.